So we don't get an intro then. Yeah, I'll do the intro. Hello, welcome to Late Rooms. I'm Paul Touhey, this is Will Monk. We'll be giving a presentation of Project Moonstick. Steve kind of dropped this on us about 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, so I've written bits of it, and Will's written bits of it. We've not rehearsed it. This would be brilliant or total disaster, but either way, you're going to find it well learned. So, Project Moonstick, like all node.js projects, we have a fantastic logo, so we've already nailed that one. So a little bit on what is Moonstick. Moonstick is our single web platform for Late Rooms Group, and it's covering 2 our sites at the moment, laterooms.com and agerooms.com. Completely rebuilt on node.js, so it's a single light front-end web tier talking to APIs underneath it. There's a high reliance on automation, environments, and operational stability, and this comment here was, unfortunately, our operations director isn't here anymore, but when we were first coming up with this project, he came up and said, let's commit to production within an hour. I think we smashed that in the first day. So, you know, that's pretty much where we are. So what we're going to do is, the first part of it is going to be a bit of a journey through our production environments, how we get there, what we do, how we work, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the funky areas that we play with. At the end, it's just going to be a bit of an open discussion where you can ask a few more questions on what you've seen, what you saw, what you thought about it, etc., etc. So we're going to start off straight away with our dev environment. So, we use this thing called Vagrant, Chef and Birch Shop, which you might have heard about today. So yeah, we use Chef throughout all of our environments. We use it in our local dev environment, we use it in our QA and our production environments. In our Vagrant boxes, we fire up 3 instances. One's an Ubuntu Node.js box, one's a Varnish cache, which is our cache return our routing engine, and the final one is an NGX, which we use for our A0 static access. There you go, Will, you can talk now.
So all of our testing and all that kind of thing is done in dev using Grunt as our task runner. So it's really quick to get some feedback on whether you've done a good build or not. With a single application, we're running server-side and client-side tests. Obviously, it's all done in JavaScript, so it's an easy thing to do. We can also build all our assets. So at the moment, that means we've got 3 different pages: the home page, the search results, and the hotel details page. What that means is that we can build an individual style sheet for each of those pages depending on what components we're using. Also, we can run the app, and then we've got JSCS, which is JavaScript code style. We've written quite a strict guide for that, so any kind of leftover line breaks or anything like that, you will get told off for it. JS Hidden obviously does JS hinting, and then coverage for both our client-side and server-side tests.
Okay, next thing we have in our dev environment is visual regression. So because we wanted to take most of the hit away from actually being down further on in the environment stack, we've introduced visual regression, which pretty much tests our pages across several different baselines. We have 5 browser breakpoints because we're a responsive site, so that covers everything from the desktop site all the way down to small site mobiles. Covers the full Moonstick journey, so again 3 pages, hotel details, search results, and hotel details. It also covers the two brands as well, Agerooms and Late Rooms. Starts uploading the baseline for S3, so we're pulling things from the Amazon AWS sector now, and even though we do that, we are able to do local testing. So before you push something to AWS, we generally say run it locally, make sure you're not pushing something like to what will be the master store without it actually working. So Varnish is our routing and caching engine. We have this in our dev environment because this is pretty much what it will be like in live. So it gives us live-like looking. It also integrates with legacy sites. So because at the moment we're moving away from the old platform to the new one, the old platform's still there, some of the pages are still served. If you have a local dev environment, it'll do your local dev. Otherwise, it just points to the existing QA environment that we have for them. It does caching, and we've also built some VCL-based tests around this area as well. So we can test it within its local environment before we can push it to production. And the final one, to briefly mention, is our NGINX box as well. It's for our cookless assets which are stored in A0. It's mostly for performance increases, but again, because we have it there, we can test it and prove that the mechanism works, the assets are working, the routing's correct, before we even bother to commit it, push it to a QA environment. That's our dev environment. We'll move on now to a bit about our dev cycle. So this is a bit of how we work and where we do going forward. What?
So we use GitHub as our management. We're using Gitflow. Not sure if everyone's come across that before, but it's a branching structure where you have instead of just mainline development onto master, you will have feature branches. They will be done with pull requests and have release branches, and it's just a really good way of managing the workflow and also allowing for good code review and that kind of thing. We're actually using kind of our own flavor of that. We're not using everything that's kind of recommended, because we release so often that we don't need a lot of the extra bits around the release branches.
Cool. That's our dev environment. Well, our dev cycle, we start using Circle CI a lot, which covers a lot of our server-side test, our client-side test, building assets for developments, local environments, pretty much everything you heard previously, except that these are used for our feature branches. So before we even pull in a feature branch, we can literally make sure that branch is passing, does everything that we want to, and that shows up in GitHub. So we're not merging anything that says, oh, this may be dodgy, we don't know if this is going to pass with develop, we don't know if this has been tested properly. In general, with good developers, it's nice to have a little safety net outside that to make sure that someone hasn't done it or hasn't broken anything that will break the develop branch.
Yeah, so one of the nice things about Circle CI is it's quite tightly coupled with GitHub. So when you do push a branch up and you want to pull request that in, it will give you a nice green tick or a red cross if your build has failed. And then we use GitHub a lot for all the kind of things mentioned up there. One of the big things we've been doing recently is code review. Obviously, that's saved us quite a few things, and even if it hasn't saved issues, it's nice to get a bit of discussion around some code that we've put in. And it's also tightly coupled to our tickets and issues. So that's good. So our develop branch is our main branch now, so everything kind of merges back into develop. Again, we use Circle CI for running CI on that, and also Go as well, which I think we'll come to a bit later. Obviously, that gives us really good, it makes it really easy to make hot fixes, so if we come across an error in live, we can quickly just fix straight onto develop, and hopefully we won't have any code in there that's either untested or hasn't gone through the necessary procedure. And obviously it makes it really quick to make config changes, so for us, a lot of our app is driven by config, so it's really nice to do for that.
So as Gus mentioned, we use Go as well. Go is historically our deployment tool, so we have to integrate with that. We're not going to throw it away. We know we don't need to use that, so we've done outreach with it. We decided it's still going to stay around. So when it actually comes back into Go, we run visual regression again. So this is the first point that we actually get the first failure and everything to make sure that the pages look exactly as we expect them to, what we want them to do. And this is where it's just to build for our QA and production environments. So that's our development cycle. I'm going to quickly go to our QA and pre-prod. QA and pre-prod for us mean the same thing. We've built a live-like QA environment using the same kit, the same boxes, the same environment above it. So we're pretty good in that respect. And the first bit about it is a custom thing that we built here at Late Rooms called Moonraker. So when we were developing this project, I spent a bit of time looking at ways to do end-to-end testing. We knew we had to have it. We didn't want to be overburdened with it. But a strong thing about this technology stack was we wanted it to be kept in the environment, which is what we're building, which is node.js. There wasn't really anything out there, so I banged my head for a while and I talked to a guy who works here called Danny Hall, and mostly him, he came up with this Moonraker project. What it is, it's a node.js wrapper for Selenium. It uses Yada, so you can write feature spec-wise however you want to. We're going to be open sourcing it soon. Danny was saying tomorrow. Whether that actually happens or not, I don't know. As I said, it runs our user journeys. Because we've got such good test coverage elsewhere, we only bother doing the happy path, so we make sure that, can we make booking? Can the user make us money? That's all we ever test at this level. Use real browsers, and at QA level, we're actually testing the full stack. So the first point, we actually join the real APIs and make sure they are responding. So testing. So it's an interesting one because certainly now that we're going a lot more DevOps and we're pushing a lot of the automation into the development environment, we still have QAs. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to push them more into the exploratory area. So don't worry so much about tickets, don't worry so much about doing testing, get involved with us, speak to us, realise what automation we're doing, focus on the exploratory. But we still have the multi-device testing. I mean, we're good at it in some persons. We use IM, VMS at some point to actually test multi-browsers, but, multi-device, difficult to do. We have a live light load simulator, which is constantly running against QA, which constantly finds a bit of a load to make sure the pages are responding. Really good for some of our monitoring. We have a set of also routing tests. These are written in Casper with Cucumber.js as the runner. What these are literally doing are checking that when you come into the site, you're being routed to the correct platform. Moonstick for the new stuff, Legacy for the old stuff. And then as we're slowly bringing it on board, we're updating the test to make sure that they get transferred correctly. Bog standard one, but it's a link checker. A lot of dead links can happen. And the final thing that we have is a W3F security test that we run as part of the QA environment as well, just to make sure we aren't adding any vulnerabilities along the way. Let's look at this one.
So ELK, which, if you haven't come across, is Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. So we replicate our live environment through QA for this, so we're logging everything that we do, and it's really helpful for error logging and diagnostics. Also, first instance of run data, which is a really nice thing to have in QA.
Everyone knows what run data is. It's like real user metrics, such real world browser performance. And the final bit of one that we have is New Relic. So for this, we use pretty much monitoring our application servers, our load, our CPU usage. Again, if we're doing some load testing, we monitor it here because we're looking for CPU spikes, throughput, data like that. It's also good for diagnostics as well. We use Kibana and New Relic together in a lot of comparison. Go from there. Now we're going to go into our production environment. So again, it's a thing called Moonraker. It's pretty much exactly the same as what we had in QA, but this time we're pointing it at the actual live tests, the live environments. Just the same thing, tests them, works in the same way. Testing again, we have some testing here, but again it's only literally limited to the auto-routing test and link checkers. Our architects and our security expert wouldn't be very happy if we started running live light load through it or doing a performance test or security test at some point.
ELK again, I think it's obviously we duplicated everything, but the idea is that we're actually running the same things in QA as in production, and it's to get that kind of equal. You got that live light in QA.
Yeah, well, I'll let you do the New Relic one as well.
You read it exactly the same.
So that's pretty much our production environment. So beyond this is what happens when it gets out in the live. So this is your person who has 2 hours after release is sitting on the service desk, monitoring stuff, the out of hours support people like that. So again, we have to think called Moonraker. What we're doing here is we're running through a tool called Isinga. So Isinga is constantly running our user journeys against the live site. And at that point it becomes part of our monitoring as well. So we know if we've got a broken user journey, then something along the stack may have messed up. We may not know about it because the monitoring hasn't kicked in or there isn't monitoring in a particular area. But the fact that we're moving towards this, we've literally got the same tests that we run in QA and live also becoming part of our monitoring strategy. I'll do the New Relic one. So New Relic again, because we have a lot of data in it. In this area we use New Relic, it's based for AppDex-based reporting. Don't want AppDex to this. New Relic have this arbitrary application index. We configure it how we want to, and we have a line that says it must not drop below this. We're monitoring server performance and throughput, and we have alerting based on policies. So if the AppDex drops below something, or the CPU spikes at a certain level for too long, over rate of errors, etc., that wakes up the out-of-hours support team, and we go from there.
We have ELK again. It's running exactly the same as it was in QA, and we have dashboards, mentioned there, the badge dashboards, which allow us to monitor really easily on anything that we want to.
That's a bit about the Beyond section. Now here's just a little bit about the Moonstick team. You want to do the left side and I'll do the right side?
Yeah, so we're kind of cross-functional team. I think we've got 6 or 7 developers, QA and some VAs. So Paul is one of the developers, but he's a software engineering test. I think a UI developer, but I spend most of my time writing Node. We've got other people who are definitely more client-side, but we do all sorts of different things. One of the big things for the team is collaboration. I just wanted to point out some of the things like Slack is a chat application. Doesn't seem like a big thing in terms of running a team, but actually we use it to communicate all the time. We've got tons of integration with GitHub, New Relic, Circle. So that's a really big thing for us. It allows us to have lots of discussion about code, and it's a good thing to have. We also run brown bags at lunchtime. I think this talk will turn into one, and we also have a code club on if we want to learn something new as a group, or we want to introduce some people to something in the code base they haven't had to have any experience with before. That's another thing that we do.
Something else that I was scratching about inter-department collaboration, inter-department and inter-team collaboration. It's actually really weird. You know, you go and speak to somebody for the first time and they're actually shocked that someone's gone and spoke to them. So we're very much about that. We work with other teams. We have a lot of SEO requirement, a lot of SEO people. Just waiting to turn Hoover off. Thank you. That's Simon Reekey and Matt Beasley, by the way. They're the heavies of the team. Yeah. May look really mild and meek, but he's a savage animal, really. Analytics, so analytics pretty much drive everything that we do at the current moment. We're working with them to make their data better, how to work with them, understand it better. Service desk, we have a really good relationship with our service desk because we actually go and speak to them. We speak to them about our monitoring, we let them use our monitoring, we ask them what they want to see in our monitoring. And again, other devs, with other teams in our environment, in our department, just generally going and have a chat with them and saying, do you know about this? Is this going to impact you anyway? Just generally giving them a heads up, and if something does mess up, say, is there anything you can do to help? Works a long way. I strongly believe in putting people and tech before process. So we do it based on what's good for the product, good for the people, not somebody putting a process in place. Processes are good, processes to be followed, but when you have an obstructive process, it just doesn't work. It makes things a lot harder. People will generally just retaliate it and don't do it. No blame. So we mess up, we don't blame anybody, we just say, right, we've all made a mistake, we'll fix it, we'll get on with it. We have fun, and we're also not too serious. So now we're going to generally just talk a little bit more about a few of the other areas that we have. We'll go into in a bit more detail. First one, GitHub.
Yeah, so I've mentioned before we're using our own kind of flavour of Git flow. It's been a really useful thing since we implemented it. Obviously beforehand we were just doing mainline development to our master branch, and actually there were quite a few instances where we'd break CI for kind of a long period of time and there's nothing we could do about it. And obviously we've only implemented the second 2 pages in our user journey recently. So it hasn't been so much of a big problem. We haven't had any really major bugs in line, but there have been a couple of instances where it's been a little bit difficult to get code out that needs to go out really quickly to fix some bugs. So moving to GitFlow has been a really big plus for us, and using it with GitHub's been really easy, especially with Circle CI integration. It's been a really good thing.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about this regression a little bit more now. So here are the 5 breakpoints that we have for our website. I've only done it with late rooms, but colour it pink, change the background a little bit. You've then got age rooms. So what is it? It compares a known good screenshot against what's currently there. So we say something like, this is the master, this is what it should look like, make sure it looks like it. Using Phantom CS wrapped in a Grunt plugin, which is called Grunt Phantom CSS. Uses Phantom.js, probably get that from the name. And it highlights the differences in pages, and it fails to build based on the mismatch tolerance. So the good thing about that is there are little bits of the pages that are going to change. So we say, make sure 98% of the page is correct, make sure 97% of the page is correct, etc., etc. But anything beyond that is pretty much a major change. So the team today nicely wrote something for me to demonstrate. So this is kind of what happened today. So on the left we had what we expected from late rooms, and on the right is what late rooms actually look like. So it looks pretty much fine. So if I zoom in a little bit on there, yeah, that looks like our web page. Yeah, that looks like our web page. But when we went to Asia rooms, so that's what we expected, and that's what we got. This one here. Anyone spot the difference? Bring it back a little bit. You can't help. Yeah. The main nav bar is missed. So that was because of change that was done in backend code. Because we're two-site website, we didn't update the config for like Asia rooms, it meant the entire banner disappeared. Phantom CSS is nice in a way, it gives you a nice pink overlay of what's changed. It's good in some instances, bad in others. So, if we'd have had to wait to go through a standard CI process with that, it would have gone all the way down to QA before someone would have gone, oh, it's broke. Right, spin up the bills, do it for each branch, bring it all back together. Oh, there we go. So, what's good? Like I just mentioned, it's caused a lot of styling issues across both brands, and it's a quick feedback cycle on visual changes. Because we're running this constantly, and we're running it a lot quicker. We're running our dev environment, we're running our our develop CI environment. We don't need to wait till it gets down the line. Also gives us a bit of a safety net to trust our client and server tests a lot more. So we can run them in isolation and know that things are going to work, but the page is still going to look how we expect. Yeah, I've got a few lessons learned. So because we're turning to a Linux house, we realised that there's some Linux fonting issues. Luckily we were able to fix this with the Chef Cookbook, so we installed the MS Core fonts with it. Seemed to sort out most of our issues. Next one's a little bit obvious, but it's something we did learn. Apparently if you delete the baselines, it doesn't work, but it still says it's passed. It happened. I'm not going to mention who did that. No, it wasn't Matt, actually. Yeah. And we also learned that Git isn't a good place to store baselines. When we were starting off the project, it's like, oh, throw them in Git, throw them in Git, throw them in Git. 3 or 4 months later, when you're checking in 4 and 5 megabyte SVG files, it starts to grind to a halt, and it's like, we need to get rid of this. So we solved that by moving it to S3. That also solved the deleting visual regression one as well, because we made the plugin, made sure you can't accidentally delete them, you have to upload new ones. Bit of what we want to do in the future, so we want to build a custom visual regression tool. Phantom CSS is good. We do have some fonting issues, it doesn't really work with Phantom, so we're generally looking at building our own at some point. And we also want to expand it to multi-browser visual regression. So no longer being in Phantom, we're going to throw it in Chrome, we're going to throw it in Firefox, we're going to throw it in Internet Explorer, we're going to see how it looks, we're going to actually test it for us, get a single browser, get something we're happy with, and see how it goes. Okay. So if you've never been to one of Steve Elliott's talks, probably everything I'm about to tell you here you'll know, but here we go, this is how we do it. So Elk is it's a stack called Logstash, Elasticsearch, and Kibana. That's the Kibana logo.
Not anymore, but it was.
Okay. So we've got a new logo, it's Kibana. Chat about Badger?
Yeah, so these are some of the dashboards that we run. Well, this is the Moonstick dashboard, which we've got on the TV like this, just by our bank of desks. It allows us to follow all the important themes. So this is the page load time for late rooms. This is the amount of requests we're getting, which has been particularly important recently. Once we've been adding more traffic on, we actually had an issue where we thought we added a load of traffic and didn't get any. So that's a useful one to watch. The error one there, we've got client errors and server-side errors. So the client errors is the very spiky one, and the server-side is a faint pink line, you can't really see. And then Asia rooms is just replicated for the other side.
Cool. Kibana is just really a diagnostic dashboard, so this is one of the Moonstick Live. Green line at the top is all the current requests that we're having per minute. This line here, pretty much intermixed. This is a case of server-side errors and client errors. So we had a bit of a blip here with client errors. So when that happened, we immediately drilled into it, found out what it was. We actually found it was the search service having a bit of a blip at the time. There wasn't too much to worry about that. So some interesting discoveries that we've actually found through our logging. So a couple of months ago we found out that the call center downstairs was coming into our website via Google, which was costing us money. So we decided to restrict the subnet and not allow them to do that anymore. So if it comes with a subnet that matches ours, we wouldn't let you do it. So we released and we got it out and we were going, quite a lot of errors here. You know, surely if they'd been told to stop doing it, they'd realised this was going to stop. So we drilled in a bit more with Kibana, and we actually realised that O2 uses the exact same subnet for their entire ISP network. So anybody that was coming in through O2 was also not getting to the site. So we immediately had to jump on that and fix it. So we changed that to actually make it so it was only inside the building and it can come from the external IP, would actually still be allowed with the same subnet. But yeah, it's one of those things we couldn't catch in the building, but it was good to have Kibana to diagnose and drill down.
Another one was Asia Rooms 4 and 4. Originally with the project, we were obviously serving up 2 different brands, and the way of getting a different brand was just by doing /Asia Rooms or /Late Rooms. There was a Varnish release a couple of weeks ago that hadn't been updated for Asia Rooms, so all traffic was still being routed to Asia Rooms. To /Asia Rooms. And once this release was done, it was actually getting a 404 page the Late Rooms 404 page. The reason being is that we just put in some new routing that basically 404'd anything that didn't match actually what we wanted, whereas before we accepted everything. So there was a short period of time where AsiaRooms.com was showing Late Rooms 404, which was not great and involved quite a lot of flushing of Akamai caches and that kind of thing. But we wouldn't have been able to catch that really because we wouldn't have been able to catch it without Kibana, because actually it showed that it was 404, but it was just such a weird way that we could see actually the route that was coming straight into the Moonstick application included that /Asia at the beginning, which it shouldn't have done.
And the final one, before we actually took over and started saying we're going to run the iSingler test, the service desk had a set of iSingler tests which was running the user journey. It was a bit of a crude app, so we were kind of just scanning for stuff and saying, no, we don't need to allow that, we don't need to allow that. Turns out we actually blocked the iSingler tests and caused a lot of people in the service desk to start getting panicky thinking the app's down. But again, we were like, no, the app's up, no, the app's down, no, the app's up, it's clearly up. Our test saying it's not. 5-6 minutes playing around in iSingler. 5-6 minutes playing around in Kibana, it was like, yeah, we blocked your tests. Why didn't you tell us you had some tests? We would have not blocked them. Again, this whole communication side that we need to intervene into. So that started a big doorway for us, because we've now got Moonmaker taking over the iSingler tests. So we own that bit, we can get part of that done. So, what is it? Customize login with the ability to query and analyze data returned. Run data monitors real world performance, so this is people out in the live loading their page performance. We've actually get some real data. Batch of dashboards available for general monitoring, so Steve's produced them himself. Is it open source now?
GitHub.
On GitHub, so there you go. So he pretty much built a dashboard for us, and we have all fancy monitoring about that. It's available in QA and live environments used by operators without diagnosis. We also have the ability to stand it up in dev if you want to look at a particular issue, or get a bit of logging and be able to understand it a bit better. You can stand it up if you want to. A bit about the future. Unified monitoring solution across all the teams. I think we're not a driver of that, but we're certainly the team that's most ahead of it. So we're open and willing to do stuff. And something just generally chatting with service and the out of hours support was the fact that we have a lot of logging, but it's difficult for people who don't have the technical know-how to understand. So we're going to make our logging a lot more friendly in the new year. We're also going to start working towards a self-diagnosis solution, so people start coming in logs, and if it's coming in from a particular API, we can say it's that API, it's that API, it's that API. Don't come with my diagnosis and tell us what to do. We won't tell you what to do. And I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions? Wow. That's it. I have.
So, I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
One of the issues, well, not an issue, but one of the things we wanted to do was that when you push a branch, it wouldn't get picked up by Go. It would be able to obviously run the CI, run the branch through the CI. But Circle's been really great for that. Obviously, the GitHub integration is good. It's nice, really ticks. And also the response time is great, so I think we have all of our tests running in about 2.5 minutes now. I think it's a pretty much immediate that gets kicked up from GitHub, whereas Go was taking half an hour, 45 minutes, depending on the weather or something. So we just kick up before it ran anything.
You get the little green tick on the request.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, although it's not a core part of GitFlow, or you don't need it at all, it's just been a nice added extra.
I know that thing on Circle CI is probably not directly related to Moonstick, but we do have some custom modules. We're actually able to test those now as well. So plug integration with GitHub, we can just say, oh, it's one of our modules, put it in. And now they're tested as well now.
So if you get like more and more, does that mean that you've got a sort of long-term view from Go to Circle?
Yes,
I wouldn't say there's a long-term plan to move to Circle. What we're trying to do is we're trying to integrate Circle with Go in a way, so we can use all that GitFlow stuff, but the environment that we're in and the outside of the company and the corporation that we're in, pretty much going to be with Go for a while. So it's more of a case of how can we utilize Circle to its best of ability, how can we then get that into Go and let Go do its stuff it needs to do.
I can check on my home. That Phantom CSS does the screenshot thing for you.
Okay, cool.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Just
It's Phantom CSS. The tool itself is called Phantom CSS. It's done by a group of guys called Hoodle. And then the plugin is called Run Phantom CSS, which is the node wrapper around it.
You're talking about coming up with unified monitoring. What are you evaluating besides using New Relic, you said, for your monitoring?
So we're using New Relic and Kibana. The guy probably there that can probably answer this a bit more, unfortunately. But I mean, do you want me to have a stab at it and then you can tell me I'm wrong?
I'm sure you'd be right.
Okay. So we have monitoring across all the different teams in the moment, but there's nothing that's really common. It's nothing that's really core.
So each team has their own monitoring solution that they pay attention to?
Pretty much, yeah. We kind of wanted to drive that down and saying, pick this up. It's also highlighted a lot of gaps that other teams have in their monitoring. Mm-hmm. Pretty much we pick stuff up and then we're going, it's not us going to speak to them and then they're going, no, we haven't got something to do that. So, I mean, there's bigger general projects around that. It's not necessarily a Moonstick project, but it is something that I think we're pretty much a big driver on. Unless Steve disagrees, I don't care.
No, that's right. I mean, logs has actually been good for unifying how we handle logging, getting all the logs into one central place. But we still have multiple ways that alerts go out the system, multiple places where you can track metrics or even gaps where you can't really. So it's just to try and drive the different conduits for all the different alerts to begin with into one place. And so we can add context, so we can kind of aggregate them and make things a bit better for our hours. We have a pretty big problem at the moment with unactionable alerts. Just kind of sort that first.
Yeah. What are the solutions the teams are using?
So, I mean, most of it is probably driven out of New Relic. A lot of teams are getting on with Kibana as well now, but they haven't got the dashboards, they haven't got the monitoring, they don't really know what they're looking for. Again, with New Relic, there's a default app policy which pretty much says that unless you're getting 96.4% errors, don't bother waking anybody up. So, yeah, a lot of it is looking at that. I mean, again, it's pretty much Steve baby as such, but yeah, I mean, we're just kind of first people to go along with that. I think we're testing a lot of stuff and giving our feedback on it.
What do you guys do about like making your alerts actionable, or in a way that anybody that responds to the alert knows what to do when they get that?
So some of that is to do with the second point that I mentioned about making our logging a lot more friendly. I mean, the person who gets woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning because the alert's going on probably isn't very intimate with the Moonstick code base.
Yeah.
But so they'll kind of look at some logs and go, there's a problem with Moonstick. Something's on fire.
Right.
Most of the time, it may not be us. It could be us, but just having a little bit of logging that says such an API is currently not responding, or it's giving this error, or this has happened, or this has occurred. A lot of it's making it a lot more user friendly. So again, we kind of generally touched on this before with something that we found. Actually, when maps sat there, it was drilling down, and we were like, we need to make this a lot more friendly, a lot more easy to understand. Don't know, John, else you want to add to that?
No. Hang on.
This is one of the first projects that had the ability to sort of do all the nice new stuff. There's lots of old legacy products that unpicking, so a lot of them just log into a massive table in the database, and someone then looks at a web page and hits F5 to see if there's any new errors. There's a lot of that kind of thing. It's been sort of changed over time, so now end up in Logstash and stuff like that, but to plug in lots of nice things, it becomes so much effort to unpick all the old products and code. So, these guys have had the ability to...
We have been kind of lucky with that, the fact that we could literally throw everything away and start again and use the tools that work for us. It's good. I mean, I think there's a lot more of a push between the other teams now to be able to do that as well.
What's the scale of your infrastructure for production versus your development?
In what way?
Just how large is this infrastructure you deploy out there?
So Moonstick is currently run on 3 boxes. The node boxes run in Ubuntu, the Chef, so everything's set up in the exact same way. Same in QA. The underlying differences is the way that they talk to APIs, we know them. There's set sandbox APIs that probably aren't as well maintained as the live ones. Again, that's a little bit different in the infrastructure. But in terms of the size and scale of our actual data centers, it's huge.
So in comparison to that, the site they're replacing runs on 18 Windows servers for .NET app that's just so bloated. And then these guys, the stuff these guys are doing is running on 3, and it barely touches 1% CPU at the busiest of times. So we have a big data center that is hopefully going to size down with more stuff moving on to that. The next thing to investigate is, starting to look at the new .NET stuff. Can it run on Docker, and what's that going to look like, and all that kind of stuff. So we do have a big data center.
What sort of traffic is
Peak of about 1,500.
About 1,500 requests a minute.
Well, that was at most 10% of traffic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we're in the process of scaling up that for using what it takes.
But I mean, again, we've done performance testing in QA, and we've thrown 7,500 requests a day. It's just gone, whatever.
How do you stand up a new environment?
So it's not the ideal where we can just ask for a server, provision it, get it working that way. Someone physically has to build a virtual server. But at that point, once you've got the image, Chef goes in, it knifes it, pulls it up, pulls all the files, pulls the recipes up, stands it up how we want to. And then at that point, it's in that state. It never gets cleaned down.
So another team says the VMs are ready for you.
Yeah.
And then you guys do a...
Yeah, so our data center provides the VMs.
Oh, the data center.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So they don't provide an API for you to stand them up?